Come along. Let's go. YRJ Pod live today. I'm excited. What do you feel, brother?
Why does your voice always change? No offense. Every time you start talking about YRJ. Yeah.
I don't know what to say to
talking
you.
Like you're talking to your wife.
You wouldn't know. Let me ask them. Is that true? Let me know in your comment section. But the reality is the fact that, I mean, when we're seated here, we have a different vibe.
True.
Right?
True.
Because we're happy to come talk to our people.
Yep.
Right? We're happy to come give information.
Yes.
But today, we're going to go a different route because I'm not going to agree with you.
Okay, let's go.
For the other episodes,
but why? You don't know what I'm going to say.
For other episodes, we've been kind of loving doing I follow you. Today, right, I'm going to take a different approach. And that's because from our prayer conversation we started earlier, I mean, I have some dissenting views about what you're saying.
Okay, so let's just so the audience is clear. Before the camera started rolling, we're talking about tariffs.
Yeah,
tariffs.
The impact on our lifestyle, everything, Canada economy.
Obviously, we don't know the facts, the exact details, because at the end of the day, I just a disclaimer for the viewers, right? It's the people in government, either in the Canadian government, the US government, or whatever. They have like the actual stats, and they know these things from the back end. But I'm just speaking from a citizen perspective, as a citizen of Canada. So we'd like to know really today this whole tariff thing, or maybe you can educate us on this. What's even a tariff? What's all the noise about tariffs?
So when we talk about tariff, it's more just like when a system or when a government or another country or even a business decides to impose certain levy, right, on you for services,
right? To
say, I mean, I kind of see it as maybe like kind of a tax in some way, right? But I think it's like a way of incentivizing my production, right? And saying that if I want to do business with you, this is what it's going to cost you if you don't come do it in my environment or in my country or in my zone, right?
Got you.
So I can kind of feel like maybe it's like kind of like an import tax kind of a thing, right? But basically, with everything that's happening, a tariff basically, from my understanding, is imposing a cost on you.
And on the people that are trying to
bring goods into their country. And I think one of the benefits is that you're trying to like encourage, bringing those businesses to come into your own country and actually have that business operational in your country, as against having to be operating from a different zone and then importing it into my country. Because if you think about it, one of the implications is that if it was to be done in my country, right, it's going to create more jobs. Which is, as a government, one of the key things government is known for is creating an enabling environment, either through policies, right, either through institutions, either through funds, through security. But what government is known to do is to create an environment for business to thrive.
But as a business, I'm thinking as a business, right? If I'm a business trying to, let's use Canada as an example, right? Let's assume I've been exporting my goods from my country into Canada, right? And then Canada puts a tariff on my goods now. You say it's supposed to create employment for Canadians, right? But as a business, I'm thinking more from a cost perspective. I'm looking at the bottom line. I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I'm to do if Canada was a cheap place to do business, or if wherever country was a cheap place to do business, then you wouldn't need to tell me twice that, I need to bring manufacturing here. Because I'm looking at my bottom line. I'm trying to see, okay, what's the cost of me doing business in this country as opposed to doing business in this other country?
But beautifully, like I said, but one of the things government is known to do, like we say, is government if you want the best of jobs, government is not known to be creating jobs, right? Government provides services,
yes,
right, through which businesses can operate, right? Now, as a business owner, you know that everything you think about first is how to optimize your profits.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to give you an answer to your question.
Okay.
So as a business, when I'm looking at my numbers, I'm looking at my balance sheet, looking at my books, right? All I'm thinking is where more can I optimize cost? Okay. At the end of the day, drive profitability, right? And then growth. So those three things is what I'm thinking about. So even if my target for this year is to make $20 billion, right? And it's easy for me to do. By next year, I want to increase my targets. Because I'm predicting that for me to be able to make 20 billion, then there's still something I haven't unlocked. Okay, either I'm spending so much on overhead cost. Okay, so where can I go run this service that I can optimize this overhead cost? Either it's OPEX or CAPEX. Either my operational expenses are high or my capital expenses are high. I'm thinking to say if I can make $20 billion, I met my target for the year, right? So next year I want to go up, and to go up, I have to look at where are those areas, right? Either I can tighten up, loosen up here, increase this year, offer this year to give me more revenue. So as a business, the reason why I'm going to leave the country is because I look at my nearest country to me, and I'm like, what's the cost of, what's the cost of production? Either they have more goods and services, more materials accessible in that country. Right. What's the cost of labor in that country, right? But the government is not meant to be thinking that way. For the government is thinking how you can create more jobs in my country.
Okay, so government is thinking country first.
Country first. I want to create more jobs. Okay. I want to increase my government revenue so that I can be able to offer more government services to the people. Right? But as a business, you are thinking about how you want to make maximize more profit to your shareholders.
So technically government and business, I would say maybe the government of the country, of the home country, and the business coming from outside the country, they are naturally at odds.
Of course.
Because their interests are not necessarily aligned.
Which is why you see government creating policies. You hear things around ease of doing business, trying to increase, reduce, direct. They'll tell you that they're going to tax exemption, tax holiday. Right. Just because we're trying to make it easy for you to be able to come in and do business. But that's not going to last for long. If I give you tax holiday, I'm probably going to give it for some years. Right? And after those years, I would have started out my analysis, look at, okay, if you give you tax for this for 5 years, right? If you come in 10 years, we can actually make that tax back, even double or, multiply it by 10 geometric or arithmetic progression. So for that 5 years, it doesn't really matter to me, right? And I'm going to look at other areas as a government where I can make that money back, right? So it's almost like governments and businesses having to shoulder. By the end of the day, government is thinking about services, thinking about the population, thinking about creating more money for me. Government wants to be wealthy to offer more service to the people and to be seen as a good government. While you as a business, you're thinking of how to make your shareholders
and yourself happy
at the end of the day, right? So Tariff is to say that if you think you can be offering, okay, why am I now producing outside my country of a country, and then half of what I'm producing in that country, I'm actually exporting it to another country. That means I'm seeing that country has more need for my services. Okay? Otherwise, I could easily just produce what I can consume.
Right.
But that will also limit how much I'm going to make. Right? Yeah. So I can produce just 10,000 and I'll basically consume all of it. Right? It's nothing. Right? But if I produce more, I can consume and then export
out.
But the reality is, those looking at it is looking at the fact that, what you're producing is lower than what you're exporting. I mean that I am consuming more than what you're even producing. So what I mean is that the country you're producing from, right, is consuming even lower than what you are exporting. So let's say country A and country B.
Okay.
Country B, let's say company A. Okay, let's use company A producing in company A producing in country C and D.
Okay.
Okay, so company A producing in. Okay, wait, no. I'm saying company A.
I know I try to avoid being sued, but
So company A,
well call the country's
company
name.
A is now producing in country B and C. So the producing company is A.
Okay.
Where you're selling is B and C.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the B is the country where I'm producing.
Okay.
The C is the country or countries where I export.
Okay.
Okay. So my production capacity is 1 million. What the country where I'm producing can only consume
is 500,000.
It's like 500,000.
Okay, let's even half of that. Okay.
Right? Meaning that I still have excess 500,000
of units, so which you don't export to country C.
Right? But what even happens in the reality is it's not even always 500,000. It's always even lower than 500,000.
Right.
Meaning that if I was to stay in that country where I'm producing, as a company, won't be wealthy.
Because you have loss. Because
I have loss.
Your cost of production is already way high.
Do you understand?
And there's no demand.
And I'm seeing that this other country,
okay,
has a capacity to
They have
consume.
the population. They have everything.
have everything.
They have the wealth.
So I'm now exporting there.
Okay.
But there has to be a cost for doing that.
Okay, I get your point.
Because the government, I will tell you, if you know that I have a capacity to consume a lot for you than even where you're producing from, why don't you just come into my country?
So you're saying you should be paying your, like the words of the popular guy down south, you pay your fair share.
That's it. Right? So that's my understanding of a tariff, and that's the way it works. So for a government, that is how a government would think.
Right.
To say, because I'm looking at my employment rates, right? And I'm saying, as a matter of fact, if you produce from my country, you can still even export. Right? So, but why are you going to go and produce what I'm consuming more?
So which goes back to my initial point about how the cost of production in my country, where you want me to export from, might not be, I mean, if it depends on the minimum wage. There are a lot of factors, right? Minimum wage, it depends on how much the skill level of the people in that country would demand a certain level of income.
Absolutely.
Right? So which also draws down your bottom line as well.
Absolutely.
So you're thinking, okay, why don't just keep production where production is cheap, and then basically, to be honest, they're trying to get an edge over the country.
So I'm saying, no problem, get the edge, but you pay more for the edge. That's fine. Right? Get the edge. So as a business, by the time you look at the numbers to say, okay, you know what I'm going to pay as tariff, right? Compared to if I was to produce in that country, to answer your question, I mean, to align with you of the cost of production, the cost of labor, which is better for me? The tariff or the cost of the labor, the production, which will still give me the higher value.
If the labor is cheap enough, which is not necessarily a good thing, we're not saying it's great to get very cheap labor, but if the labor is cheap enough, even with the tariff, the company might still be making a good amount of money.
They will always still make, because the reality is at the end of the day, they passes the cost to the consumers.
Which is the part I have, and that's what worries me, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, like, you know, in my country of birth, we have a proverb that says, when two elephants
are fighting, the grass suffers.
It's the grass that suffers. Yeah. Okay, so it's like when two countries are going at it back and forth, right?
It's always the people that get burnt, yes. Right? So which is why government is saying that. So the beautiful thing is now, so on top what you're going to ask as a question is, as a government, so what are you going to be doing with the money, with this tariff you're getting, the money from the tariff? Which is what is most important, because like you said, it's going to be a lose-lose,
right,
for the consumers,
right?
Okay, if I'm paying more, and from this tariff you're also getting, you're not doing anything with it to offer me any relief.
Because the tariff assumes that the government will be efficient in their spending,
ideally,
which is, I mean, most governments run deficits.
Exactly.
If I'm being honest.
So which is what it's supposed to be, right? To say from a financial perspective, it has to make sense for the people as a government, which I think is what genuine government, real leaders, right, always intend to do. To say, you know what, you're going to bear the pain because we're trying to force them to come into the country. But if they don't, right, we get a tariff from them. We're going to reduce the effect on you by offering you more services, right? Either reduction in your tax, which will put more money back to your pockets, be able to afford those things against being a loss to you, because now you're taxing me, money is leaving my pocket, right? And I'm still spending so much to still live a good life. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's now, so again, I mean, we don't want to mention names, right? But from a economics perspective, we can see that is what, this old tariff thing, the legislators are talking about, to say, you know what, don't worry, my people. When I impose this tariff, this is how I'm going to make it easy for you by reducing your tax, rendering some services, offering this and making life much easier for you, right? But I think holistically in the long run, it always pays if the approach is right.
Right.
If the thinking is right and the leaders are genuine in terms of what they want to do, right? It's always pay the people at the end of the day. Because the company have to look back at their book and say, okay, you know what, does it pay us better to actually go into that country and then run the business, which will create more jobs, or we keep paying this tariff? And then when they pay the tariff, if the government is sincere, right, and empathetic enough, then they will take the money from the tariff to reduce the effect on the people. So at the end of the day, I feel like it's even itself out, and it makes life better for people. Yeah.
I guess let's now focus on people, because people want to now know. So what should individuals or families be doing, right? Because now, like you rightly mentioned, we know now that things are most likely going to get more expensive. Some things might be cheaper because let's assume like some countries, some producers or suppliers or whatever within the country might start making things internally. So, and instead of us having to import those things from another country, so some things will get cheaper, but at the same time, things will get also expensive, especially things that we have no choice but to import into our country. So, I'm just guessing what should families be doing at this point in time? And I think this is a very, very important question because when we talk about even people's real estate journeys, either as buyers or sellers, the finance is like the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation with someone today, just elected, and he was saying, as real estate agents, consultants, realtors, you're basically in the finance industry because people's finances is like the baseline of how they're either going to buy, or even when people are looking to sell, the question is, okay, what are the financial implications of me selling? If you're investing, you're thinking of financial returns as well. So how should families now be thinking about their finances in this environment, in today's environment?
So, I mean, I'm not a financial analyst, right? But again, I can share, what I'm doing as a person,
that with your clients and things like that. Yeah.
I think, I mean, if you look at the way the world is, right, there's always ups and downs, right, around situations. And I think, the question is, what are you doing when it's down? So I'll give you a good example. S&P 500, NASDAQ, in the past, S&P 500, NASDAQ in the past few days, red, if you know what it means, right? Now, is it the time to panic? Maybe not really.
But can we elaborate on that so people know what the S&P is? So the S&P is the Standard & Poor's 500, which is it's a basket of the 500
big companies,
largest companies in the US, right? Okay, so you're basically saying the stock price of that index,
either in the tech, either in the energy, either those companies that consolidate and make up that category, it has gone down.
Yeah.
And why? Because of this whole tariff, the impact, the direction. Of course, over time, since the beginning of the year, we've been seeing things in and out because there's been some, direction, indirection about, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And what's going to be an impact,
right? Much uncertainty.
Now, some have said that it's like a market correction.
Okay.
To say, and of course, if you're familiar with trading, you know that, as a matter of fact, when you're trading and it's just going up all the year, right? Or for years, or like for a century or for a period, right? You should know that something at some point it's going to get corrected, right? And how you get corrected is through government policies, because government direct how private company operates to know, are we going to spend more? Are we going to, reduce our cost, right? So what has happened? That's just to give a picture of the things that drive this decision. So tariff is a big deal right now. It's impacting what is going
markets
on, right?
Out. Yeah.
Now, I would say that this is a good time to buy because I literally feel that these stocks are now on sale. Okay, that's what it is to me. They're on sale, right? Because the reality is that, so it's going to happen this way. Is that they just completely go off or it gets better? That's where the market operates.
Right.
Is that the decline keeps going and then it just goes out of the way, which typically doesn't really happen because this company...
It will take... the countries we're speaking about, these are like...
the real countries that determine... what the world direction is.
If that country drops, if it goes down to the extent where things crash, then the world has crashed.
Of course. So if you look at it, and it's not new. For you put an investor, this has happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Right. We saw another one in 2020
during
2021 during the pandemic. Then I think we had a recent one in, I think was it 2017 or 2018? I think it was 2018 again. We had something similar. And people cashed out in that period in just 5 months. So my advice is this is a good time if you're an investor or you're thinking to invest, you don't have a direction, right? Speak to a financial advisor. But I think it's a good time to buy into those stocks because right now, I literally say, like I said, they're on sale. Okay, so what probably goes for like maybe $90, probably like $45 now, right?
Sure.
But the reality is per share, right? That's a good that's a good discount to get on because typically they'll always get back if the numbers are right? Now back to how to live our life.
But sorry, just to press you on that though, it's easily said, but it's harder to do. And the reason I say that is because it's almost like counterintuitive because you're seeing like markets are receding, people are running away from investing as of now. Even the real estate market, like sales, there's a lot of inventory on the market. Yeah. People are not buying as much. So what you're saying is actually counterintuitive to people because how do you invest in something that you can see is clearly trending downwards?
So to answer that is the fact that you have to be very calculated,
right?
And people should be responsible by themselves. Go study go study S&P 500.
Yeah, do your own research.
Do your research, and you see that this is like a pattern.
Right.
You can see that, you know what, when we have this kind of crash or this kind of correction, as we call it from a financial perspective, right? What comes out of it is always a boom.
Right.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons also why this is important is because it also helps, the way I see it, helps people that ordinarily should have been able to invest, not to now be able to invest. Probably it's gone too high, and you're like, you know what, I can't.
Because things were overvalued.
Exactly.
Like, especially like mid last year, like it was crazy.
We'll just keep going on, right? So now there's something that has come in to say, you know what, we can't, it doesn't make any sense. It's not real. It's not genuine. We need to correct things, right? And then let's have real organic growth.
Right.
Let's have genuine growth, not just inflated growth. Right. And so I think speculations and then things that just keep moving on. So right now it's real right now, right? Doesn't mean it's not going to keep going down. But my advice, like what I do every week is I buy in every week.
So that's a dollar cost average.
I just do dollar average, and I just go in. If it goes down again,
$20, $50, whatever amount.
Exactly. Just keep putting it every week. Okay. That is me, right? I just,
that's your strategy.
I just put it in. If it gets high, it's good for me. If it goes lower again, I put in again, right? I even it out. But again, don't do that without understanding the market.
Or understanding what
exactly
company you're buying into.
Right. So for example, if you're someone that likes eating burger, right? That means there's a lot of cow that's been consumed. Go look for those companies that are producing the cows. Right? It tells because burger is not going to get out of the way. People are going to keep consuming.
Please don't let Peter come after us.
Right? People are going to keep consuming burger.
Some people are vegetarians.
I'm just giving an example, right?
Okay.
If you're someone that you're so good into iPhone,
okay,
right? You're very heavy on Apple. You're a big fan of Apple, right?
Right.
Take a share of it, right? Because right now you're buying the phone, buying the laptop. But you don't belong to the ownership circle, right? Why don't you just try and find some money, put it into that company? That's a real stake.
Don't let people who think this show is called your stock journey. This is your real estate journey.
Right? We're just sharing this insight for people to know what they can do. Of course, we're concerned about you. We want you to have more money in your pocket. If you want to buy a house.
Other assets, right? Apart from
owning a home, right? So I think for me, for example, again, as a family, sit together, rework your finances.
Your budget is key in this period.
You have to just rework it. Look at it. What are the things that probably you're spending on that's, I'm not going to say not important, but you can do without.
Right.
Probably just like it's just luxury, right? You might just want to look at it, rework around it, just, find new things just to put you on a balance level again, right? And then you have enough money to be able to, I tell people, this is a good time to invest in the stock market. And I'm saying it, quote me, to my words, hold me accountable for this.
Hold him accountable.
And I'm saying this is a good time.
On this day, this is released,
for those that would take into it, I hope you'll be able to share the profits with me, right? When you earn it. But the reality is but you said you're not being responsible now. You're pushing it on me. So I'm taking this on.
We are one. So.
No. In this case. Okay, so don't do a disclaimer.
Okay.
We are together, right? So say are you advising them to buy stock right now?
Please speak to your financial advisor. Speak to your financial advisor. Let them direct you as needed.
But it's just to say that it's a good time to just work your finances with your family, sit together. If you're an individual person, just look at your books again. If you don't have a budget, maybe a good time for you to start learning how to do budget. Just, build your costs and ensure that you understand where you're spending your money, where your money is going to. People say money disappear. I've heard things like money is disappearing.
Money is just disappearing.
There's no money disappearing. What is happening is you're not tracking it. You don't have a way to track to know where.
Like the management guru said, that what gets measured gets done.
Doesn't exactly. So if you don't measure it, you don't know if it's been done or not been done. Right? How do you yourself accountable? When you have a budget, you can see where you're spending. As a matter of fact, the reality, when you have a budget in a time like this, you can actually see where those money is going to. You can see where I don't want to say the unnecessary expenses, right, where it's going to. And you can be able to adjust to say, you know what, maybe for now, I eat out every day, right? Maybe I can start learning how to, cooking, get something, like that, just.
It's so funny that the scripture says exactly the way man's heart is. That's where his treasure
is, right?
Like a very, very simple scripture, but so true. Absolutely. Like, because when we look at our budget and we say, okay, how much are you spending on takeout? How much are you spending on It can even be like it could be anything. For some people, it's like their car.
Yeah.
Some people really love their cars, and then you said, okay, maybe you washed your car like 5 times in 3 weeks.
Like to be glistering and glam.
It's always like your car, even during winter.
Who's looking at
your
you?
car is looking at you. How is this possible? Why is your car looking so clean? So your car, or they always buy like a new mat, or they bought like a new steering wheel, just a new accessory for the car. So it could be just weird things, right? We all have different inclinations to do different things. So I guess it's always funny. And then also to say that, I always say this, companies look at their budgets every year. Countries look at their budgets every year. And it's always shocking to see that it's always us, and we're all guilty of this at some point, right? It's always we as individuals that never actually sit down just to say, okay, where's my money going? So companies do this, countries are doing this, and this is why companies, you might hate them for it, but they look at their budget, like you just explained. You have experience in that field, right? They look at their budget, they say, okay, this is how much we are paying all the people in this company, and then we might need to let like 5% of this.
As a matter of fact, you just got out of my mouth what you just said now. That's what we call layoff, right?
Right.
So it's a good time for you to also lay some things off in your life. Some things that are just example. So like you said, if you have a budget, like companies do, right? They see where their money is going to.
Yeah.
They look at what's the growth potential. Are we expecting any incremental growth to happen in the next 1 year, 2 years? Looking at what the macroeconomics is saying, and I feel like, you know what, I think for the next 1 or 2 years, I don't think we're going to see incremental growth in this particular department, in this particular venture, right? We need to shut it down.
And that's when they get rid of people.
And what typically happens is in those periods, their stock goes up.
Why?
Investors now have trust in them because they can show more. They can show the books to say that it's looking better, right? It's looking more tidy.
So it's all for the numbers.
It's all for the numbers, right? So maybe previously overhead costs, everything that comes with it is showing like $1 billion, for example, right? And then they have to either you right size, you call it different names, but the end of the day, the key thing is people basically. So we call it right sizing, optimization, layoff, whatever. Downsizing, right sizing, upsizing, whatever.
That's when the CEO now writes one very poetic letter on X that, why for the best interest. That's a very poetic letter. They write it. Yeah.
Because what led to that is probably they've had their AGM.
Yeah.
And then
what's an AGM?
Annual general meeting, where all the key shareholders, get to see the book, ask questions, show audited records, and show how much was spent, what the books, the profits were made, and to gain the trust of the shareholders, right? Okay. So typically after those meetings, or when companies declare profits, which typically happens quarterly, right? And then in that period, what typically happens is that our shareholders are happy to say, this is what you projected last year that made us to invest more into the company. Are you meeting those numbers? Okay, because for example, if I tell you that NASA, give me $1 million, I'm gonna double it next year, right? So by next year, I'm gonna sit with you and say, this is what you said, right? Did it happen? Or you just even said, I'm going to double it by 50%, right? So I'm sitting down and I'm asking you, we're looking at the book, did that actually happen? When that happens, it gives me a kind of level of trust. Yes or no?
Yes.
To say,
I'm willing to give you like an additional.
I'm willing to invest. I'm willing to buy more because it feels like you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Right. Now, when that doesn't happen, right? Shareholders are going to ask questions.
Like why did we not meet our target?
And then they look at the overhead expenses. They look and then say, you know what? It looks like we need to shrink. We need to reduce, or maybe sometimes you projected a growth that is not realistically happening. Like it can't happen realistically. That's what I mean, right? And then they're looking and say, you know what? Maybe we are not ready for this growth. Maybe the market is not going to favor us this time.
But is there a different way to do this? Because I understand why companies do it. I get it. But from a real estate perspective now, I'm thinking, are there other options? Because I've had people are in the process of buying a house. And let's go back to real estate now, for instance, or using real estate just to tie this into real estate. Someone's trying to buy a house, and in the process of qualifying for a property, then they get laid off their job.
Yeah.
Right? But you bought the house, you went firm on an offer with the understanding that you had a job. You didn't know that this was going to happen.
I mean, unfortunately, it's one part of our lives that is not interesting. Layoffs are not, it's not fun.
Not fun. Right.
It's not fun at all. But as believers, we see things from a different perspective. Because we would be the whole things work together for our good, right? But in general, I mean, the reality, when you're going to buy the house, it wasn't like you spoke to your employer and said, tell me if you're going to lay me off, right? It was a decision you made yourself, right? I'm just trying to find a better way because it's a very sensitive.
Yeah, because I always think about that. This is like for that.
It's really very sensitive.
It very stressful.
It's very, very stressful. And again, you don't have to beat yourself to it. You probably did nothing wrong. I've had people that they got laid off after a good performance review. So there was nothing you would have done. It wasn't about you. It was just the fact that unfortunately you were impacted because the decision was made at a senior level.
You were the grass that suffered.
But maybe we're going to share this again. There are ways you can, I won't say automatically edge yourself away from things like that. Okay. From a career perspective, there are things you can do to always ensure that even if, again, there are different kind of layoff. There's structural layoff. There are layoff that is just a department or a business unit. And there are layoff that is just within a team.
Okay.
To say, okay, you know what? We need to optimize. We're not expecting this department to go incrementally in the next 2 years. So that means we won't need this much number of people, this amount of people to continue doing.
But why did they hire that number of people in the first place?
So that was based on growth. It could be right. It could be wrong. Right. Which is why we do what we call the manpower planning. Right. Okay. And different things could have gone wrong. You might have done everything you should have done. But again, business just makes decision at the executive level and feel like, you know what, we're not going in this direction anymore. So it's like saying we want to grow as a business by 50%. Okay. Along the way, during the year, it's looking like
tariffs.
I think it's an aggressive one based on tariff. Things can happen. We need to take a pause. Right. And then they'll be like, you know what? Probably for the next 2 years, I think we need to just stay steady. Okay. Let's maintain what we're doing right now. Get there. We don't need to, increase it or
be too aggressive.
Just take it slow. Now, whatever has been done, right, based on that projection,
has to be undone.
Has to be undone, right? Which could include people that have been hired to deliver those growth that have been projected to be cut off, right? Okay. So again, it's nothing you've done wrong. People have gotten a job in 1 month. And they got laid off the following. As a matter of people have gotten laid off. I won't say lay off. People have been withdrawn.
Right, like their offers,
they were given offers, signed, and then 2-3 months or even 2 weeks into getting on the job, it was withdrawn because that growth that was projected, right, wouldn't be happening anymore, right? So you can say that in that kind of a case, you'd have done nothing. Like it wasn't your fault. They just felt like they were not going to that direction anymore. But even if you're on the job, again, it could be performance-based because even within a team, when they want to lay off sometime on the team, the manager can be decided to look at the top people that are adding the value and see where they can redistribute them to, right? And it could just be that maybe your function is under. So it's a whole lot of things that goes into it, right? At the end of the day, if you're impacted, I think the ultimate aim is stay strong, right? But based on what we're talking about,
thank God for
whatever it is, right? Exactly. Yeah, and you might not even tell what God is trying to say to you at that time, because again, sometimes comfort doesn't bring anything new, right? Discomfort I've always known over the years, something that gave birth to something that you wouldn't have thought or you'd be able to do, because when you're in your comfort zone, status quo is just so comfortable. Everything is gray, is fine, but discomfort kind of helps you. It breaks you out of the norm. Right? In some situation, if you can take advantage of that discomfort, right? So I think it's a time for you to just look at the numbers, look at you're still alive.
Thank God.
Which is the most important There's still a lot that can still happen, with you. It's just a job that was lost. Painfully, it's sort of income, as it may be. But, pick yourself together. Like in that case of what you've mentioned about the real estate, right? Unfortunately, if you are I don't want to say lucky, if you're fortunate to be able to get a job quickly, you might be able to bounce along, right? But the question is, what if you don't get a job and you have to close? Because the reality now is, even if you close, let's even assume you're able to wiggle your way around and you close. Can you afford to pay the mortgage?
So my take on this, like, as you know, what we're advising our clients to do at this point in time, it's from a real estate perspective, guys, please. Usually, when we're buying property, right, there are different kinds of insurance that we pay. Yeah. So, and people usually mistake these two kinds of insurance, but I think it's important to clarify.
Which is that?
So the first one is the CMHC insurance.
What's CMHC?
So CMHC, this is the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, right? If you put down anything less than 20% down payment on a property, the government is basically incentivizing banks to lend you the money by making you as the buyer pay a premium. So that's what that CMHC insurance is. So anything less than 20% down, you usually see, there's this CMHC insurance fee that's added to your mortgage. So your actual mortgage might be, let's say you're buying a house of like 700,000. Your actual mortgage might be like maybe like 550,000. But then, and you put down, let's say 100,000 in down payments, right? Then you also see like another small fee, which is about anywhere from, I want to say maybe 2 to 3% of the purchase price, which is what you're paying as CMHC insurance. So that's the one insurance. That's just like before even qualifying for the house.
Okay.
Now, when you do get a firm offer as a buyer and you're about to close on the property, towards the end of the closing, the banks would always ask you, do you want to get mortgage insurance?
Yes.
Mortgage. So this is different from the CMHC insurance.
Okay. I remember seeing that at some point.
Yeah, so they ask you that. So now that mortgage insurance, it's sort of a protection for the banks as well, right? Because it doesn't come to you as a person. The money you be paying for that mortgage insurance is just for the banks to say, if for whatever reason you can't make your mortgage payments, because of that insurance you've started paying, then they still get their money back from you. It's like they're.
But what happens to my money? To the money I've been paying for the insurance?
Remember that when you're buying the house, you've not made any premiums yet.
Yeah.
You've not made any payments yet.
Yeah.
Because that mortgage is like an additional fee on top of your regular mortgage payment. So it's called mortgage insurance. So I'm just saying in this season, I think usually I'll tell clients you don't need it because if you have like life insurance already, right?
So what about between that and home insurance? Because you're still going to get an home insurance again.
Now, so home insurance is just to protect the physical assets.
House, not so the mortgage is the money in the cash, basically the money.
Yes, the money.
That's the money you've borrowed.
You've
right?
borrowed. So that insurance is to protect that money.
Why the actual home insurance is to protect the house,
the physical house from fire, from flooding, from act of God.
Don't pay that money.
Actor, which one?
Don't pay the mortgage insurance.
Yeah, no, I'm guys.
Don't pay the mortgage insurance.
No, I won't say don't pay. You know what I'm saying? So in this situation where layoffs are common, especially in this environment,
you will not be laid off.
Amen.
You will not be laid off, rather.
Amen.
He's making me to say rubbish already. You will not be laid off.
Amen. But I think
I'm not going to agree with you today.
I know it's fair. It's fair. It's good. I just think it's a layer of protection that you can get. I know it's benefiting.
You will not
the
be
bank.
laid off.
It's benefiting the bank.
Yes,
but
we are trying to get our people to optimize their expenses, to get the value for their money.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you if you have a home insurance already.
Remember, home is for the physical assets.
Yes.
Property insurance.
Nothing will happen to you.
Okay, guys. I disagree with him.
You know, as a real talk, I always take a very different approach because for me, my customers are my people, and I look out for you. I mean, again, what he's saying is not completely wrong. Okay, I'm just saying I'm not going to agree with him. I'm for you now, so I have to follow you. So my point is, you will not be laid off. Okay, so don't.
Amen.
You have your home insurance already. If they let you come and meet me, that's not what I mean. I mean,
yeah, so that's the second promise you are giving to the viewers today.
but out of joke, the reality is, I think it's just good to take good financial decisions.
Yeah,
right.
It's very important.
I mean, before you buy into any product, try and get your, either your realtor, your financial advisor to sit down, look at all the scenarios. Why should I?
Right.
What circumstance would this be relevant?
And don't just say no because it's an expense.
Yeah, no.
Don't just say yes.
Yes, because it's just good to have.
Right.
It looks good, right? Sit down, look at it. Like we always say, buying a home is a good decision, but the numbers have to make sense.
Right.
Think about all the factors. I mean, but again, just stay very possible, but be a realistic person, right? Think about what could likely go wrong, which is just pretty much normal about life, right? But again, make sure that you're spending your money wisely, making the right decisions. Don't be like NASA that wants to buy mortgage insurance. But I'm not going to buy mortgage insurance. There's not anybody who wants to sell to me.
For full disclaimer, I don't currently have mortgage insurance. Because when we were buying our property, it was like there was no need for it at that point in time. Right?
But the two properties that we bought, I see it. Yeah, I just tell myself, no, I have a mortgage insurance.
But you have life insurance.
I have life insurance. Exactly.
But then life insurance, remember, God forbid, someone has to pass on for you to reap the benefits in terms of getting that lump sum to be able to make the mortgage payments.
I mean, it's so interesting that there's just a whole lot of
different
when it comes to finances, particularly in this part of the world, right? Yeah. You have to really be educated.
Yes.
I mean, even in insurance, there's a whole lot about insurance. There's different, either whole life,
term
UL,
insurance.
term, and then you begin to look at which is right for me.
And that's just insurance.
And that's just insurance.
Yeah.
And then you have your car insurance as well.
And property
and
insurance.
then property insurance again. And then some people even
Life
insure their
insurance.
legs. Some people even insure
Sky said insure their legs.
I mean, people insure different things. People even insure their phone.
Yeah, who get phone insurance as well?
You
too.
know,
yeah, Apple Care.
Apple
is
Care. And I don't know, the
insurance.
question is,
Yeah.
then how much do you really have to live like a good life yourself and like on yourself?
I mean that's a great question, and it's the answer varies for different people.
Like, or let me say, what does like how much should you earn, or how much should you be making to be able to live a good life in this part of the world? And maybe good life is also very relative.
I mean, is there really a figure to that? I feel like, is there really a number? I mean, if you're earning 500,000, yeah, like, you would think you're good, right?
Yeah.
Actually, let's even bring it down. Let's say the average income in Canada, which is where we are
100.
now, average
Combined family income.
average is.
I think I'm even being generous.
Yeah, I think you're being extremely generous. I would say in terms of, okay, per family, I'm not sure, but I'd say per individual.
It's always combined. Like the reports is always like
combined.
I think it's about 80, 90.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, let's Google it. Let's check.
Can they buy a house? Is there something for them in the market?
Condos, yes. You can get a condominium.
Oh, okay. So that means no one is left out.
No, you can
There's
get
something for
You
everyone.
can get a condominium. Yeah,
Oh, great.
You definitely get a condo with 60K. I mean, but 60K family income, really, I wouldn't say getting a house should be your top priority. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's just in terms of, I mean, again, you have to run the numbers, right?
Yeah.
What other expenses do you have? What are do you have a car? Do you have kids in the house? Is renting a better option for you at this point in time? Right? Have you even 60K income? I'm trying to see with the way rents are now. I'm trying to figure out how much you can even really save as a down payment.
As a down payment. So, but what I think in summary, as we wrap up this episode, is, like according to Dave Ramsey, right? It's someone I love so much.
Uncle Dave, of course,
you wouldn't. There's never gonna be enough.
right?
You have to work financially with what you have available. Meaning that even if you make $1 million and you're not financially responsible, it's gonna be nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But if you earn 50,000, for example, and you're financially responsible, right? You can live it right.
Right.
While trusting and believing that thing changes, right? So what that means is the fact that at 50,000, right, be real to yourself, right? Always think about investment, right? Don't think about consumables, because that's the reality about it. Like, I said, a lot of people spend so much money on what doesn't bring money back to them.
There's a lot of that these days in terms of, and because by a lot of that, I mean, there's a lot of things for us to spend money on in comparison to like 10, 15 years ago, right? Like, if you talk to the average, let's say Gen Z, for instance, now, okay, how many payments do you have? There's Apple Music. They might have Apple Music and Spotify. There's Netflix, there's Crave, there's Peacock TV, there's Amazon Prime.
My God.
Then they have their phone payments, right? And
as you're saying this thing, what I'm just saying is just, I just see money being thrown out of the window. Like, I'm just seeing money being thrown out of the window.
So these are all payments, right?
Yeah.
I've not spoken about the money we spend on takeout, right? Like us going out to eat and things like that. So like to your point, there's really a lot of like financial literacy that, and maybe who knows, maybe one day we'll have like a YRJ
financial literacy course, right? Because I think it's very, I mean, over the last few months, I spent time talking to people, and I'm looking at, even as a person, right, having to rework my, finances, budget,
it's an ongoing thing.
And I feel like, I see some things that I feel like I could defer, right? Like a delayed gratification, right?
That's huge.
Like,
when it comes to finances.
Do I need it? Is it a need or a want?
Right.
Right? Which of it is like, can I do without it? And over time, I feel kind of like, okay, today is gone. I didn't have to eat a burger. I don't even take burger, right? I eat healthy, right? And I'm like, nothing happened to me, right? So that's discipline, because something is craving for something in me,
right?
But I said no to it, and that's costed me nothing. I'm still here. As a matter of fact, I'm here today on this episode, right? And just give an example. And there's a lot of things like I've had to like just cut out of my finances, because I feel like, what if I was to put this $1 somewhere and I could get a return from it, right? Why do I need to buy an iPhone 16, for example?
Right.
What's it going to do to me? Like, I mean, again, it's an individual thing, right? I feel like people walk through their financial literacy journey you begin to see it like you're gonna be looking at your expenses directly. And you're gonna be telling yourself, okay, you know what? I think I have to do better.
I have to do better here, yeah. And that's the beauty. I think the process of going through the budgeting for yourself and your family is the process in itself helps you. I'm not even saying, okay, stick to what the budget is saying, but just writing it down just to see, okay, where everything is going. Like we said at the very start of this, just see where everything is going. It's a very, very good step to even start. And then that way you can start having a conversation if you're married with your significant other. Yeah. To now start having those conversations. Okay, what do we need to, cut down on or do better at, things like that. But also, it's also to say that sometimes it's not always a spending issue. There might also be like an income issue as well.
Absolutely.
Because if the income is not incoming, I mean, there's only so much. You still have to feed. You still have to clothe yourself. You still have to go to work, transportation costs and everything. I remember when I was working, I was just having a conversation with my wife the other day. When I was working a 9-to-5 job, in terms of just going to work every day. And it was during the pandemic, and then the pandemic was like dwindling down and everything. And so they said, "Oh, you guys need to come back to the office 5 times a week." I'm like, "Nah, I'm not. I'm
done."
I'm not gonna, that was when I knew that no. I'm not gonna do that, because when I think about it, I guess the income as at that time was maybe.
Don't say the number.
Okay.
So I don't get intimidated.
Okay. I don't. Let's just say when I looked at the numbers, so I did my family budget, I just thought to myself, if I had to commute, it was Midtown.
I had to commute to
North York. It wasn't like downtown. It was like Midtown. If I had to commute to North York every day, and in the building we had as well at that point in time, they made us pay for our own parking as well.
Wow.
So if I had to commute, because I live in Durham region, I had to go to North York every day, Monday to Friday, gas expenses, parking every single day, or even if you don't park, you have to park somewhere and pray that you don't get a parking ticket, right? And it just wasn't. I just feel like this wasn't making sense at that point in time. So even I guess it's about looking at just everything around you and making an informed decision based on all the things that you might need to spend money on, and now thinking, is this worth my time or not? So
yeah. And to be honest, I think it's just about being financially responsible, right? For me, I don't really look at the number in terms of what I'm earning. I look at what I'm spending, right? And when I look at what I'm spending, I'm looking at what I'm spending towards,
right?
Is it what am I spending more to income generating, expenses, or I'm spending, more to things that's
just consumption.
Right. Like, I mean, I love shoes. I mean, for people that know me, I mean, it's something don't take me to don't take me to a store, to a Fagaham Mall, or take me to any of those big brands. I love shoes, right? But again, I have to be disciplined to tell myself I could delay this gratification, right? I look at the number of shoes that I have, and I'm like, I even have some that I've not even worn.
How many legs do
how many legs do I even have? Do you understand? And it's not like, it doesn't change my psychology of the things I want, which is very natural for people, right?
You like what you
like, right? But again, if you think about it holistically, can I do with the very little that I have, manage the little I have, and then think about how to create more wealth so I can be able to afford more?
Right.
I think that's the principle. Think of how to afford more. Think of how to make more, so you can be able to have more of what those things you really like. As against, you don't have any opportunity to create more of those things. You're just actually buying those things right now. Okay. And I think for people that are earning income, like salary, right? Like we've spoken about layoff.
Salary is amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like we and sorry to cut you off. I just like we underestimate. Because these days there's a lot of build your own business. You can't be wealthy if you don't have
a business, second income, a third income.
Yeah. Yes, there's some truth to some of that, but please, I think the very first step is to be able to just appreciate the fact that the company says, you know what, we see value in you,
and we want to watch.
We're going to pay you 100, 200, 50.
Yeah,
that in itself is something. It's huge.
Absolutely,
because there are people now that are applying for jobs and they cannot get a job.
Absolutely.
So you complain, someone that is like, what are you saying? Like, I've been applying for like 3 months now. I don't have
one,
anything.
Right?
So I think we need to take it. Let's not undervalue having like a job. Like having a job, it's because that's the baseline for everything. If you're going to buy a house, they need to qualify you based on the income you're generating.
Yeah. Even how long you've been on it, just sometimes it matters.
Exactly.
The bonuses you get and all those things.
You can't even, how do you create a budget when you don't have steady income?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
but the key thing is from that income you have, be able to create wealth out of it.
exactly.
I think we're going to have a wealth masterclass. We can tell people how they can create wealth out of it. I mean, people know these things, but we can just give a different perspective to it. You could be an employee, okay, and also employ someone. I tell you, you can be an employee and also be an employee at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you know how?
The wealth quadrant, right?
That's it.
So employee, self-employed, business owner, and then investor.
Yeah, you can.
But you can be multiple.
For example, if I'm earning XYZ pay and I'm buying into stocks, I'm actually employed this company to be using my money
so
to
an
make
employee
money.
And you're on the employee quadrant, but you're also in the investor quadrant at the same time.
Yeah. Let me share a very good story as we wrap up this episode. I tell people that if you work in a company and they have what they call ESOP, employee stock option programs, where you buy and the company top up.
Most people don't opt into things like
Oh
that,
my God.
which is shocking. But
Oh my God, please, I feel like actually going on my knees now and tell you, please hop in. Those $50, $20, $10,
they're taken from your
$100 being taken from a paycheck. By the time you spend a considerable number of years in that company, you'll be amazed how much you saved. This is the beautiful thing about it. When you don't subscribe to those shares, that's $20, you're actually going to spend it. Because you won't think of investing that $20. You're going to spend it on...
The money will go somewhere.
It even looks very, very, very small.
Right.
Just buy Tim Hortons, buy Starbucks, so that we don't promote anyone.
Right.
I mentioned, which other one again?
The second cup.
Second, whatever, third cup, fourth cup, right?
Fourth cup.
You can, when you buy those things, or you probably just go for lunch, that money is gone, right? And nothing's going to happen, right? You've eaten the food and you're fine at that moment.
You've eaten your seed.
I mean, I'm saying that because I actually did subscribe,
right?
And I wasn't even checking. I wasn't looking at what the value is. And I tell you, I'm not going to mention. It's huge. I think I was probably taking. I don't even know. To be honest, you have to go back and check my pay stub,
right,
to see how much it's been taken up. But I think they said the maximum is 5%. Option of between 2 to 5.
Right. So
I opted for the maximum, right? And then the company will top it up.
Right.
Right. For every $5, the company gives, I think, $1 or something like that. Right. And then it really meant nothing.
Because it's basically, it's almost like free money, really.
Do you understand? And it meant nothing. And when I looked at the value of my shares,
you're like, just this amount.
I wish I'd been working for that company for like 10 years. Honestly, I think I'll be due for retirement. For real. If I'd worked for that company for 10 years and I subscribed to that same amount
when you started,
I think if I choose to retire in the next 2-3 years, with the value, I think I'll be very, very fine. Coupled with other things, that I've been subscribed to. So my point is, I mean, look at every opportunity you can get out of your job.
Yeah.
If there's a saving program, subscribe to it. That $20, that $10, even if it's in the church, they have a cooperative or whatever. Just, those very little money, like a drop of water makes an ocean, right? It won't really 100%. Matter anything to you. And if those money, you can easily spend them because they look so very, very small.
You're like, what am I doing with
like,
$10, $5?
You can even, I mean, you can really just let's go with them, right? But I can tell you, by the time I could get them into a real fund, you'd be amazed what I would have. Because again, it's like a compound interest, right? So you put in $1, it generates 50 cents. That's 150 cents. It's being invested, and then it's like compound. So it's not just what
it's compounding.
It's compounding. So whatever you make is invested back, and then it goes on, and it's quite a lot of money. So I think today we'll spend some more time talking about financial investment.
Yeah, we spoke about tariffs. Then financial management, budgeting, and now just like a little bit on investment.
Right? What do you think about us today? We want to hear your comments. Just put in there. Do you feel this is boring? Do you feel, these guys are doing well? Or like you said, do you think there's a particular topic you want us to talk about?
Please let us know.
Let us know. And we hope you had a nice time. And we hope we've been able to add, even if it's just a drop of value.
An inch of value.
Right, into your knowledge of financial management, right? Again, we're still learning ourselves.
Yes, we are.
Right? So from the little we've learned, we've shared.
Yes.
Oh my God, I feel so proud. How do you feel today?
I feel great.
All right, guys, thank you so much. It's still your boy, Nasser and Joe on YRJ Pod. Did I pronounce your name well?
Yes, you did.
Okay, let me do it again. It's still your boy, Joe and...
Nasser.
Why are you feeling that way now? I say your name very well. You're not sure your name.
Now.
Is it Nasser or Nasser?
Trust me, I've heard all sorts of things going on. I've heard Nasser, all sorts of things. I grew up in Nigeria, so it's all good.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Stay cool, stay warm out there. We're heading to... I can't wait for summer.
I'm so you know what? Let's end the podcast here. We need to go outside. We need to go outside.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please leave your comment. Please share this to your friends, your family. YRJ Pod, and have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye.